Shooting at a high school in Maryland. Maryland State Police are saying that they are responding to an incident at Great Mills High School. This is in St. Mary's County. This is about an hour southeast of Washington, D.C. The high school is on lockdown at the moment, and we're told the incident has been contained. We could be getting a news conference at any moment. We are working this story for you, and we'll bring you developments as we get them. But first, a city and state on edge. Yet another bomb explosion overnight, this time inside a FedEx facility in Central Texas. Now an intensifying FBI manhunt as authorities try to determine if the latest blast is tied to a suspected serial bomber. Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandra Smith, live inside America's Newsroom.
And good morning, Sandra. And good morning, everyone. I'm Eric Shawn, in for Bill Hemmer this morning. You know, that blast inside the FedEx warehouse, it was the fifth in Central Texas just in the past few days. And there are reports now that the package was bound for Austin. This latest bombing coming after 4 other explosions in that state. And now more than 300 federal investigators working nonstop to try to make the case before the mad bomber strikes again and more lives are lost.
The box was a medium size, what I was being told, was on a conveyor belt when the explosion occurred. Investigation is still underway, so I can't really, I don't know exactly what was in it at this point, or what it contained, or where it's the destination at this point.
Chief Correspondent Jonathan Hunt is live in Austin for us this morning. Jonathan, what is the latest on the ground there?
Sandra, good morning. The people of Austin and well beyond waking up this morning with a sense of fear and dread, and then finding those emotions fully justified with the news that there was overnight another explosion, this time at that FedEx facility in the small town of Schertz. That is essentially a suburb of San Antonio, about 70 miles from Austin itself. The explosion happened at about 12:30 this morning local time. One woman, a worker at that facility, complained about hearing issues, but she's not being classified by the ATF as having any real injuries. That is the good news from there. But obviously, everybody very concerned indeed. The ATF, a source there telling me that they are not definitively linking this blast at the FedEx facility to the other 4 explosions that we have seen in Austin at this point, but they are clearly investigating it in the light of those explosions, given one, the geographic proximity to Austin, and also the proximity in terms of the timing of those other explosions. Obviously, Austin still reeling from the explosion here yesterday. The scene right behind me here, where 2 young men accidentally hit a tripwire, set off the explosion. Both of those young men quite seriously injured. Here's the grandfather of one of them. Listen.
Both of them were kind of bleeding profusely, and he kind of tried to stop some of the bleeding on them, and then they called 911 real quick. I don't know if my son called it or my grandson called it, one of the two, and before long, the police and stuff were everywhere.
So now we are looking at 5 explosions over the last few weeks. This latest one, as I say, just outside of San Antonio at this 100,000-foot FedEx facility. Going to take some time to comb through that for all the evidence. And then the 4 here in Austin itself. It is making this city very nervous indeed. The governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, told Martha MacCallum on the story last night he has 2 messages for the community. Listen.
One, law enforcement at all levels are on top of this in a way bigger than what we've ever seen before. And 2 is to remind everybody, and that is, be careful about your surroundings. Be careful about any type of package you may see.
Now, as for who might be responsible for these bombings, authorities, if they have any clear ideas, they certainly are not sharing them with us at this point. But obviously, they say that these devices are sophisticated. When we went to the tripwire bombing on Sunday, that obviously took it to a different level. So they are looking at somebody with a certain degree of expertise here. It's a wide field. They want to narrow it down really quickly and stop this person before anybody else is killed. Sandra?
You know, Jonathan, it's amazing when you read through these news stories here, and I can't believe this just happened. I pulled up one and I see my Aunt Patty quoted in it. You know, I mean, this is a hugely populated city where most people feel so safe every day. It has a huge work population as well, as we know a lot of technology firms have relocated there recently. When you talk to people on the ground there, are there people who are choosing not to go to work or not send their kids to school? I mean, I keep hearing from you the fear of the residents of Austin right now.
And I think people are naturally very fearful because the packages and the tripwire bomber have been so random. Packages left on doorsteps, a tripwire which, according to the experts, almost nobody could have seen. It was virtually invisible. And these are popping up all around the city. They've been going in a sort of clockwise motion from the northeast of the city and around over the past few weeks. So everybody in every part of this city is very nervous indeed. They're heeding the governor's advice to see something and say something. A lot of reports coming in yesterday to authorities of suspicious packages. None of those proved to be any explosive device of any sort. But obviously, anybody finding anything on their doorstep is very concerned. And now anybody just walking the streets very concerned. Also worth pointing out, Sandra, we have a PGA golf tournament going on here, a major one in which some of the world's best players are just arriving in Austin today and tomorrow, and in San Antonio at the end of this month. Of course, we have the NCAA Final Four. So a lot of big events here. It's got everybody on edge, as you can imagine, Sandra.
Residents just desperate for more answers and more clues as to what is happening there. Jonathan Hunt on the ground for us, Austin, Texas. Thank you.
And we're also right now following the breaking news in Maryland, a shooting at the Great Mills High School. That is in St. Mary's County, Maryland, near Washington, D.C. Police say at this hour that situation is contained. There has been a shooting. No reports on any injuries or fatalities at the moment. And parents are being told to address and go to another high school that is being used as a staging area. Again, that shooting this morning at Great Mills High School. We will bring you any new details as we get them.
And we very well could get an update on the ground there soon via a press conference. After we got the warning that Maryland State Police were aware of this incident at Great Mills High School, we were told St. Mary's County Sheriff's Office would be leading the investigation. They're asking for the media to hang out there at the staging area, so hopefully we get an update on the situation there soon. All right, we want to bring in John Roberts. He's live at the White House for us, and on a quickly changing day there as well. Jonathan? John?
Yeah, good morning to you, Sandra. And the White House is watching closely what's going on there in Texas, particularly with this latest explosion at the FedEx facility in Schurz. Obviously, Tom Bossert, the Homeland Security Advisor to the President, is keeping a close eye on this, as is the rest of the National Security Council, the Department of Homeland Security as well. Sarah Huckabee Sanders was asked about this earlier today. She said that she had not spoken to the President about it, but that federal authorities are offering any and all assistance to local authorities there in Texas. The President and Governor Greg Abbott are very close. They talk to each other a lot, so I'm sure that the President is reaching out to the governor there to see if there's anything that the federal government can do to assist in the investigation. Sarah Sanders was asked this morning about 40 minutes ago whether or not there was a potential international component to any of this, that maybe this is not a homegrown bomber, maybe this is coming from overseas. She said that she did not have any information on that at the moment, but it's clearly something that the federal government will be pursuing. You know, this kind of harkens back to the days of the Unabomber, although the bombings were much more sporadic back in the days of Ted Kaczynski. And it was eventually the FBI that unwound that and discovered him, but not until after he published that manifesto, which was then recognized by a relative of his, which is probably the reason why the authorities there in Texas are asking for this bomber to contact them somehow so that they can, quote, understand his message. Because if you get a message out there in public from this bomber, there's a potential, as there was in the Kaczynski investigation, for somebody to recognize that and help the police zero in on a suspect. Sandra?
John Roberts at the White House for us. We'll get another update from the White House in just a few moments. Meanwhile, I want to bring in Senator John Kennedy because we've got a lot more going on this morning that we need to get to. He is the senator from Louisiana who serves on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Senator Kennedy, thank you for joining us this morning. As you can hear, there's so much going on at this moment. And at this hour, a countdown is on to fund the government by the end of the week. Where do things stand this morning, Senator?
We're negotiating with our Democratic colleagues. We need a budget. It's embarrassing that we don't have one. Everybody else in America has a budget, except that the entity that you think should take the lead, and that's the United States government. It needs to be balanced. Our Democratic friends want to add what I consider to be a lot of extraneous issues, immigration for one. I think the quickest way to blow up our budget negotiations would be to insist on mixing apples and oranges, but I think we'll get it done. I don't think anybody on either side of the aisle wants to shut down government. Having said that, I want a budget that's balanced. I just don't think we spend enough time thinking about the ramifications of a $20 trillion in debt. I mean, we borrow $1 million a minute to run this place. $1.4 billion a day. It's breathtaking.
What are you hearing from your Democratic colleagues? Because the president says Democrats are refusing to negotiate. They don't want a deal on DACA, says the White House.
Well, if it's not going to be, DACA's not the only issue that our Democratic colleagues have talked about. And to be fair, there's some of my Republican colleagues that are trying to inject what I consider to be extraneous issues as well.
What's the issue with them? What's the holdup with?
One is the Affordable Care Act. There are some folks on my side of the aisle that think we ought to reinstate the subsidies to Obamacare that the president got rid of. Actually, in some respects reaffirm Obamacare, but also in return develop some plans that will allow the American people to pay less for their health insurance. And I'm not passing judgment on that idea. I'm just saying we need to go do a budget. We have a hard enough time when the only issue is the budget. But you add all these extraneous issues and it just gets more difficult. The real issue is in the budget is how can we properly fund defense? How can we properly help our neighbors who are hurt by natural disasters while at the same time not adding to the deficit? Some of my colleagues leave out the last part.
So it sounds like there's an issue on the Republican side, and on the Democrat side, Senator, do you believe Democrats are acting in good faith in these negotiations?
I'm not going to ascribe bad motives to them. I don't know what's in their heart. I just know the quickest way to blow up this budget is to add a bunch of extraneous, controversial stuff, like immigration, like Obamacare, like taxing the internet, that sort of thing.
All right, the Friday deadline's quickly approaching. It sounds like your best guess this gets done without a government shutdown.
I don't think anybody wants to shut down. The Republicans don't, and I think Senator Schumer learned his lesson in the last one.
Okay. Senator Kennedy, thank you for joining us on a busy morning. Thank you, sir.
It is busy this morning. We're following two big breaking news stories right now. That shooting at the Maryland High School and a fifth explosion that is now rocking Texas. We're hearing the FBI and the ATF responding in Maryland. We'll have more on both those stories as our morning here continues.
Plus, the White House confirming President Trump will not fire special counsel Robert Mueller as the president adds to his legal team. Alan Dershowitz will join us to break down what all that means.
And have you heard about this? One California town saying no thanks to the state's sanctuary state policy. Could other communities follow suit? Arkansas Attorney General Leslie Rutledge will be here. She's attending a White House summit on sanctuary cities. We'll talk to her later this hour.